Lisa Broom with the Tuesday, August 26th edition of the CBC Evening News. And our top story tonight, the Ministry of Health is reportedly working around the clock to set up a quarantine facility to treat people with symptoms of Ebola. This as the new acting Chief Medical Officer of Health says the Queen Elizabeth Hospital cannot be the place to treat these patients if the disease reaches Barbados. Shane Seeley has the story.
In an exclusive interview with CBC News, Dr. Kenneth George noted the growing concern about the deadly Ebola virus here in Barbados and across the world. He mentioned the fact that Ebola continues to spread in West Africa, and then news about the detection of a new strain of the deadly virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the last 24 to 48 hours. Now, while Barbados and the Caribbean are currently considered at low risk for an Ebola outbreak, Dr. George says we must be ready, but he says health officials must look at a quarantine facility other than the QEH.
In a low-risk region, we have to plan for every eventuality, and I think this may be a good opportunity to look at another venue other than the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Most recently, we had a professor who came down to Barbados who strongly suggested also that we not use the Queen Elizabeth Hospital for very infectious and contagious diseases like Ebola, like H1N1. So really and truthfully, it is important for us to have a place where these persons can be managed outside the hospital.
Now, Dr. George's comments come as Ebola training continues here at the Lloyd Erskine Sanford Center for workers in the public and private sector. That training has been extended to late in the evening to get the message across to as many people as possible.
The training is quite flexible, and it is based on our manual. We have a procedure manual for Ebola, which documents all considerations regarding the outbreak, including port health considerations and including general population considerations.
Now, Dr. George says the Ministry of Health is also working closely with other government agencies, the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization in preparing the best possible response to the threat of the virus. Dr. George also spoke about the much talked about experimental drugs which have been used to treat Ebola. He doesn't believe, however, that Barbados will be able to get access to them just yet.
The experimental drugs have only been made available to 2 persons in the United States, and I think 2 individuals in the endemic region. The drug companies are trying to make it available on a more commercial basis, and they are also having some challenges in terms of the production. My last reading was that the individual who was transferred to England, they didn't even have that experimental drug to give that patient. So that the experimental drugs will be on the market, but we don't perceive that it's going to be in any wise produced for another 6 months.
There is also a word of caution for citizens. Dr. George is urging Barbadians to postpone non-essential travel to countries in West Africa. I'm Shane Seeley for CBC News.
Thanks, Shane. Well, police are on the hunt for 3 culprits, one with a firearm, who reportedly carried out a daring daylight robbery at the popular Pink Star restaurant on Baxter's Road earlier today. Lawmen say the men took an undisclosed sum of money from the cash register and then destroyed it. They also robbed a patron of his money, wallet and a cell phone. No one was injured and investigations are ongoing. Meantime, a 19-year-old man has been charged in relation to the weekend raid during a fete at their party stand. He is Chemo Avery Grant of Grisette's Main Road, St. Michael, who is accused of concealing a .32 revolver on his person as well as having ammunition. Grant appeared in court today to answer charges of illegal possession of a firearm and unlawful possession of ammunition without a permit. He appeared in the traffic court before Magistrate Graveney Bannister and was remanded until September 23rd. It appears women are being used to ferry contraband and illegal weapons into parties and fetes. This is the view of at least one promoter following a raid early yesterday at the popular party stand. Among items seized, 5 handguns, a pound of marijuana, 6 pieces of camouflage clothing, 11 cigarette pieces, implements for the use of drugs, knives, a ski mask, and a number of scissors. A number of juveniles were also detained for being there, the youngest being 14 years old. Band leader of Power by 4, Chetwin Stewart, says although men have to go through security checks and are patted down, women's bags are only looked into. He believes this will have to change.
As we looked at it, we think our mistake is that we weren't using the scanners on the women as we should. The problem comes sometimes when you're dealing with 1,000 people and 1,000 people turn about the same thing, because that is the other issue. With these events, people tend to all come at the same time. The event might be scheduled to start at, like Summer Job Center, scheduled to start at 7 o'clock, but you will find only from 10 o'clock people will turn up. And between 10 and 11:30, you have 1,000 people coming. So what happens then is that the security tries to get them in as fast as possible, because if you don't move them from the gate, then there becomes another problem.
As it relates to minors in FETs, Mr. Stewart says there is a strict policy where no one under the age of 18 is allowed into a Power by 4 event.
Yes, we had a few slipping through the cracks, but every week we have probably over 200 young people trying to get in. You know, they come with all different little schemes and scams.
Wow.
To bring adults that are really not even their parents, saying that they're their parents.
APTO, the Association of Public Transport Operators, one of the organizations representing the PSV sector, fully supports the wearing of uniforms by drivers and conductors. APTO's position was reinforced by Interim Chairman Maurice Lee. Recently, Minister of Transport Michael Lashley said several operators are not complying with the directive given by the Transport Authority.
Essentially, it's regrettable if any Minister of Transport will have to legislate the wearing of uniforms, but as long as there's no full compliance, as the Minister has seen when that was rolled out, well then he's within his rights to legislate it. And if it's legislated, it has our support.
Mr. Lee says with bus fares set at $2 for adults, the question begs, is this sustainable?
We have just lost the concession on fuel, and it's becoming increasingly harder in the face of more service providers and reduced ridership for the operators to survive.
One of the biggest weekly branded events in Barbados will soon be exported to the United States. Ryan Broom reports.
The CBC's immensely popular Q in the Community is going to New York for Labor Day weekend. The major development is the result of a collaboration between local group 246 Entertainment and the corporation. Andrea Craig of 246 Entertainment explains what is in store.
Well, actually I came up with the idea late last year, when I was getting a lot of feedback from persons in New York inquiring about Q. And as I realized a lot of Barbadians come down from New York, London and all these places and they engage in Q and they really like the activity. So I decided to try and take it outside of Barbados to these persons. So we've decided to take it to New York for Labor Day weekend. And it's going to be Sunday, August the 31st at the St. Gabriel's Episcopal Church grounds. And we're expecting lots of persons to come out because the persons in New York are really excited for it. And they're really, a lot of emails and so on are coming in about it. So we expect a good crowd to be at Q in New York.
Mr. Craig also says that Q in London and Toronto could also possibly be on the cards for next year. Meanwhile, Acting General Manager of CBC, Rod London, says it will represent a major step for Q in the Community to move onto the world stage.
Some months ago, Mr. Craig of 246 Entertainment approached the CBC with the idea of taking Q to New York, hosting a Q in New York. And CBC jumped at the opportunity because here in Barbados, Q has really taken on, for us, what has been a successful exposure of Q as a brand. So we took the opportunity to work with him, and hopefully it's just a test. We will look to see if we can, based on reviews and feedback, perhaps take Q to other cities around the globe.
Mr. London says that as a brand, Q in the community has continued to grow from strength to strength locally as it attracts both locals and visitors in large numbers.
Certainly here in Barbados, Q has become something of an event where every Thursday, it attracts between 3,000 and 4,000 Barbadians and visitors to the event. Right now, we have a waiting list up to the end of 2015 for persons in Barbados wishing to host Q. So it is something that we are very, very proud of here at the CBC, and we are looking to maximize its potential.
So if your friends and relatives in New York have not heard as yet, let them know that Sunday, August 31st is the day when Q will be very soon in their community. Ryan Broom, CBC News.
Thank you, Ryan. And we'll have more news ahead in just a moment, including the loss of 7,000 turkeys for a local business. But first, we want to hear from you on the question, do you think that government should, by law, mandate all PSV operators to wear uniforms? Text yes or no to short code 8111. We'll have the answer for you at the end of the news.
Today, Sebastian Daniels is teaching his daughter to drive. He's a little nervous, but he shouldn't be. Because no matter what happens, his auto insurance from Sagicor General has them covered. And besides, it turns out she's a natural.
Nice job.
Sagicor General, wise financial thinking for life.
When you are feeling a little low, oh, oh, oh. Itching and scratching, oh, oh, oh. And you feel the pain in your tummy.
You may have worms, so tell your mommy. You may even feel a little queasy. Oh, oh, oh. Cause you may have a runny tummy. Oh, oh, oh. When you feel the pain in your tummy, you may have worms, so tell your mommy. Anyone can have worms. One dose of Centel eliminates most common intestinal worms. Deworm your family with Centel twice a year.
I'm happy. Now I'm gonna take my time. I'm happy. Enjoying myself with lime. I'm happy. Escape from reality. Yay! And let lime take care of me. Whoa, whoa, we're just happy and smiling, doing almost anything, having fun and just living. Whoa, whoa, shopping, chilling, everything.
Get Abby this summer with Barbados' largest 4G network, now upgraded for island-wide coverage. Activate any prepaid or postpaid data plan for a chance to win $1,000 each week. Check out lime.com or in-store for details.
And this just in, Christchurch business is counting its losses after fire destroyed over 7,000 turkeys in a pen near Coral Ridge, Christchurch. Operations manager at Chickmont Foods, Trevor Gumby, says the company is awaiting an assessment from the fire service before the true loss can be determined. The birds were 2 weeks old. 3 appliances, 1 tanker and 2 water tenders responded. A secondary pen was not affected by the blaze.
The entire building, is burnt. It's a 400 by 40 building. We had 7,600 turkeys in there, 2 weeks old. They're all gone. I mean, the building is a ruin. At this point, I can't tell you exactly what is the cause because I don't know. By the time I got here, the building was already burnt already. So I'm just waiting to see what the findings will be. And then from there, we'll take it and go.
Bring back more spectacle to the National Stadium on Kadooment Day. This appeal from President of the Barbados Association of Masqueraders, Chetwin Stewart. He told CBC News he's taken on the challenge of getting more people back into the stadium, which will happen if something is created to attract them.
The answer to that I've pushed for years, I'm going to take the challenge now, is to create the right atmosphere at the stadium. When I was a little boy, I used to go to Garrison for races. races was the big thing. But I actually only watched the races when the horses were running. Outside that, I used to be playing the colors and playing this and that. That is what is needed now at the stadium. You need to get families to come out, the ones who are not jumping, you know, but watch their family jumping and have activities on the stadium itself. So that is something that we're glad now that the NCF is actually looking out to merge with promoters like myself and actually make things like this happen.
Mr. Stewart also thinks returning to a reinforced stage would also be good for revelers.
A stage is kind of necessary because when people know they're looking forward to having their little dance in the limelight on the stage with the international press and the family home to watching TV can see them, then people will come inside. But now you have a setting now where some people don't even want to go to the stadium and stand up outside because like I'm going to wait till the band come out. So that's what we need to create now. We need to create that atmosphere where people come back into the stadium because remember we are presenting crop over now to the world.
Culture Minister Stephen Lashley wants more Barbadians to become volunteers. The challenge was issued during a community independence church service at the Christchurch Parish Church. This year's theme is Uniting a Nation, One Community at a Time. Noting that past community independence celebrations have been successful, he believes more can be achieved once additional volunteers come on board.
The parish independence committees can do with more volunteers coming on board. We do have challenges from time to time with some of the committees, but unless the communities believe that this is their own thing and that they have a role to play, then of course those challenges will be there. We have to spend a bit more time being conscious of the fact that in order to improve our communities, I know from time to time we talk a lot about, you know, those elements of our young people who are involved in negative behaviors. But this program is a program that stresses positive conduct.
Mr. Lashley thanked the sponsors for their consistent support over the years. However, he notes more sponsorship would be appreciated for the individual parish projects.
Even the parish independence committees and the parish ambassadors in executing their various projects, they also will require sponsorship and support. So there is always the avenue for more support from corporate Barbados, but more importantly, companies who actually which function within the various communities can be very, very, very impactful and supportive by supporting the work of the parish ambassadors and the committees.
Barbados is facing stiff competition from Aruba and Panama in the Guyanese market. More Guyanese are reportedly booking flights to the two nations, which are now easily accessible through the Curacao-based Incel Air and the Panamanian airline Copa. Travel agencies are saying Guyanese are traveling to Aruba more than any other Caribbean destination. They attribute the positive booking numbers to low fares. Bookings for Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago have reportedly decreased significantly. An African nation is tapping into the expertise of the Caribbean Examination Council to further develop its educational system. It's for that reason that a high-powered delegation from Lesotho, led by its Minister of Education and Training, Makabelo Mesetwane, is in Barbados. And today, acting CXC Registrar Glenroy Cumberbatch and Registrar of the Examinations Council of Lesotho, Dr. Litsobako Ntoy, signed a memorandum of understanding that will govern the relationship. Mr. Cumberbatch says the team is interested in several areas, particularly their work relative to early education.
We were not very well known in the primary schools until maybe 3-4 years ago, when we started this Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment. And we believe that we can share our experiences in beginning this program with our colleagues from Lesotho, who are now looking at their education system and trying to find best practices around the world in where they can move their system. And for that purpose, we are pleased that they chose the Caribbean Examinations Council as their partner to move forward with their primary assessment as well as other areas of examination.
Minister Mesetwane says although this is uncharted waters for her country, it is moving forward confident in CXC's ability to deliver.
There are those organizations like CXC that have successfully traveled a similar route. This therefore makes CXC the ideal partner for ECOL to benchmark with, as the latter can use the experiences of the former to validate its intentions and to make relevant and informed decisions that are key to the ideals of educational development in Lesotho.
Prime Minister Fendel Stewart says it is important that leaders of small island developing states attend the upcoming 3rd International UN SIDS Conference in Samoa. Speaking ahead of his departure for the September 1st to 4th meeting, Mr. Stewart stated such countries need to be part of the conversation. According to him, they must go and articulate their own case and not leave it to others who may not put it as forcefully as they can. Stressing that Caribbean governments view the conference as extremely important, he disclosed that there would be participation at the prime ministerial and ministerial levels, as well as by the Secretary General of CARICOM.